maybe if he means Dina, I'm not sure if
I think
that's what he means.
so.
Yeah. And what I don't remember what that episode is. Maybe it's a Daryl episode. Hmm.
Mm.
Anyway, he goes on. Anyway, Jace, I've been silently lurking for at least a decade, and I finally have the need to write in. As you and Lucy do the rewatch, is there any chance of you doing a quick run through of what happened in the episode? Nope. Sorry. Okay, let's
No,
go on.
it's a secret.
It's a secret. No, he
No.
goes, it's been years since I've watched these episodes, and your 5 to 3 points plus notes usually cover a lot, but I'm sure I'm forgetting everything that's not being mentioned. I can't be the only one who's listening to the rewatch without partaking in rewatching, right? Yeah, I don't think you are. Even if the answer is no, I'll keep listening just in case the next episode is finally the one where Karen leaps back home. Don't get bit. Karen,
No.
you should watch Squid Game. Karen and David and I just covered the final episode of Squid Game, and I
Oh,
just published it
amazing.
yesterday. Yeah. But she's
Fun.
so sick of The Walking Dead. She's allergic to it now. It's crazy. She
Oh.
might come back on if we cover a movie or something.
Did she get
Um,
bit?
yeah, she's a zombie. But yeah, David, I think that's a good idea. I mean, I just pulled the summary from Wikipedia. It's pretty short, so I don't know if this is going to be exhaustive enough for you, but hopefully it will jog people's memory as to what's going on in the episode. Would you
Brilliant.
like to read it, Lucy?
Yeah, it's Wikipedia, baby.
Mhm.
Okay, so The Walking Dead season 2, episode 6, Secrets. Glenn sits nervously on the secrets of Laurie's pregnancy and the barn walkers. He eventually spills them to Dale, who learns that some of the barn walkers are Herschel's family. Glenn and Maggie return to the pharmacy to retrieve supplies for Laurie, but Maggie is attacked by a walker. Shane threatens Dale when he probes the story of Otis's death. Laurie grapples alone with her pregnancy, but Rick finds out and confronts her. She reveals the affair with Shane, and Rick accepts it.
I accept that that happened.
I accept that to be true. Citation not needed. Thank you, Wikipedia.
So, what did you think of this one?
Yeah, it's good. It's the first Angela Kang episode.
Oh, I didn't even realize.
Yeah,
Okay.
I only realized on my second watch.
Hmm.
And I think that is a point unto itself, so I'll hold my thoughts on that. But no, I think it's a good, strong episode for the season. I liked the things and themes that it touched upon. There were some moments that made me laugh. Some moments that I
Yes.
found really emotionally affecting, and all over. I'm excited to talk about it. How about you?
Great. You got me thinking about the Kang thing, but I'll save it because like you
Yeah.
just said you had a point. So I liked it. I can see watching this why George Romero said, "Oh, Walking Dead's just a soap opera," because it felt very soap opera-ish.
Oh God,
And
yeah.
I can totally sympathize with my 2011 self that was getting impatient with all of this angst and never-ending search for Sophia. And
Mm-hmm.
but and the character progression is also a very slow build. I think Frank Darabont, who I think has only done movies aside from The Walking Dead, probably thought of this season as one long movie. So we're just seeing it like a stretched out movie as far as character progression. All that said, it's the same thing as all the episodes this season because I've come to care for the characters a lot and know what happens and miss some of the ones who've been gone longer, that I'm just able to let all that go and really appreciate it and enjoy it and not worry about, I don't even care about zombies that much anymore. So
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, it's fun and it's funny, like you said, and interesting to see the interactions and everything. So I
We
liked it.
we went to the cinema last night to see Mean Girls.
Ooh, how
Because
was that?
it was good. It was good.
Yeah.
But beforehand there was an advert for If, the John Krasinski film that has Kaylee Fleming in it. And as
Mm-hmm.
soon as she came on screen, I just got really teary and was like, "Oh, I love her. We love her." And then I leaned over to Peter and I was like, "I'm so glad that Laurie didn't abort her." I just watched that
So
scene.
sweet. I know, right? That's called If. We haven't talked about it. It's John Krasinski's directing it, right?
Mm,
And Steve
yeah.
Carell, I think, plays the voice of this
Hmm.
imaginary friend of Kaylee Fleming's or
Yeah,
something.
I think so. She looks so grown up. It's
She
great.
does. It looks cute. I'm not sure when it's coming out. Pretty soon. Do you know?
It seemed to be like maybe this summer.
Oh, for a while. Okay.
Yeah, I probably need to go borrow somebody's kids to legit go and see it at the cinema, or go
But
myself. I don't know.
I think people recognized what a star she is because it seems like kind of a big movie. And I just think it's cool that Krasinski, who played Jim in The Office is
Hmm.
directing a movie with Steve Carell in it, so they're still hanging out,
It's
you know?
great. It's so great. Honestly, it
Yeah.
was so good. Yeah, I usually trailers don't get me emotional, but I was like, oh, she's so. I
Yeah,
love
I'll
her.
go, I'll go
Love
watch
her.
that. All right. What do you got for your first point?
Well, let's talk about the Kang thing because I was
Mm,
like, I started thinking about what can we map the characteristics of this episode onto like what made the Kang era good. And speaking generally, I think that what made the Kang era, things that I enjoyed about the Kang era, and from what I can recall, you also enjoyed, but correct me if I'm wrong, are satisfying character beats, good developed relationships between characters that made kind of logical sense, an understanding of the cast and characters she was working with, and not leaving things hanging unnecessarily for resolution for dramatic effect. And I think we have all of that in this episode. Um, I thought the beats between characters were really strong. I thought the development of Glenn especially was great. It made me really sad that we didn't get Kang era Glenn because I think she writes him really well in this episode and his
yes.
relationship with Maggie in particular. I think she shows a
Good
great
point. That
understanding
now I'm
of
bummed. I
right.
wish they
I'm
could
just like,
have done some flashbacks or something and get Stephen Yeun back on there.
yeah. I was just like, oh, because I was like, Glenn is so good, and Maggie and the way she is with Glenn in this episode is so good.
Hmm.
We see a really layered confrontation between Rick and Laurie that's not your typical reveal scene because it's anticlimactic because Rick already kind of knew. And
Yes.
that I remember that surprised me when I watched this for the first time. But now knowing the way that Kang plays things like the Dante reveal and other sort of longer things that we were like, oh, this is going to drag out for a while. She actually tends to not leave you hanging, have it resolved,
Hmm.
and then see what the fallout is, which I really enjoyed.
And by the way, just those words that you just said, the Dante reveal, just make
Yeah.
me go, how fucking great is The Walking Dead later on
Right.
compared to this in some ways? Like, that was such a great moment. There's no moments like that right now.
No.
Not until
Well, I don't
Shane, like
know. There was a
later this
crotch
season.
grab. There was a
Yeah, that's
crotch
true.
grab
That
that
was
was
pretty,
quite upsetting for everyone involved.
pretty intense.
I think there's also a soft touch of humor to this episode that I thought was quite Kang era-y.
Hmm.
And yeah, it made me excited that she's now part of the show fabric from this point on, and I think it shows the promise of why she ended up the showrunner when she did, and the things that she managed to do with it that were strong, and let the show go out on a high despite a bit in the middle where it really struggled for a bit. Um, and there's some great lines in it, like with them. Andrea says to Shane that he's a dick sometimes, and Shane's just like, I acknowledge that, and I'm like, oh, you acknowledge that you're a dick sometimes,
I
okay?
love that. Basically, he's saying, "Yep, deal with it."
Yep, and you can just see Andrea's like, oh yes, oh okay. Um,
Right.
Glenn and Dale, you're old, you know things. There's walkers in the barn, and Laurie's pregnant. Just wonderfully written. Even that moment at the start where Carl, who might be a little psycho-misogynist at this point, he's like, "You're just a
Hmm.
housewife" to his mom, and she's like, "Am I punk?" I don't know. There's something quite funny about that. Daryl saying, "Next time you shoot me, you best pray I'm dead," also made me laugh. Yeah, I thought there was a nice touch to this episode that when I saw it was Kang that had written it, it made a lot of sense to me that that was her. Yeah, I don't know. What do you think now that you know it was her that wrote the episode? Does it change your, I don't know, does it change your opinion or?
I'm loving all this. I agree with pretty much everything you're saying about her strengths. And yeah, I can see now that you're saying it, some of those popping up in this episode. What you said about the Lori and Rick conversation not going exactly the way you think it would, but
Mm,
I, in my opinion, feeling more right, you know,
yeah.
than it would have been if it would have been the predictable thing or the stereotypical thing.
Mm,
But I think also another thing with her is it's kind of related to what you're saying about character beats and stuff, but just a warmth that comes through in her
mm,
writing. And especially in contrast to some of Gimple's not so great tendencies of being opaque and weird and cold and undecipherable, you know, when, because like we've talked about before, those two contrasts were so strong in the finale, like so striking,
Yeah.
because you got a full Kang episode with a little Gimple at the end there that was so different.
A little touch
And
of
it was like,
Gimple.
ooh, like
Yeah.
what happened there?
Very
So,
jarring.
yeah, no, I mean, I'm a stand for a lot of Gimple stuff. I think without him, who knows if The Walking Dead would have reached the heights it did. I always want to add that in there, but he did have some flaws. So anyway, yeah, I think it's great, and I think and it does help me. I already liked the episode, and you're right, it had some great little moments and things, but I appreciate it even more now that you said all that. So that's really cool.
There was the two other lines that I thought were funny were Glenn asking Maggie if she was buying his silence with fruit. She says no. There's also jerky, which really made me
Yeah.
laugh. And Glenn saying that he sucks at lying. He can't even play poker. It's too much like lying. Yeah, he's so good. Like he's such a good person, Glenn.
Yeah. And Steven Yeun is so good at playing it in a way where you could see through the writing that it could be goofier, and you know, if you just read the lines in a different way, you wouldn't have as much respect for Glenn. He does seem a little hapless, but still there's a solidity, there's a potential running through him, which Maggie speaks to in this episode. But I mean, he's so good at it. And also, now that Steven Yeun, I've seen him in many other things, playing many different types of characters,
Oh yeah.
then it becomes clear to me, like back then, I think probably a lot of us just sort of felt like, yes, Steven Yeun is probably just like Glenn. But
Yeah.
Steven Yeun doesn't want us to think that. He has said so to me on stage in a panel, like, maybe I'm not as much like Glenn as everyone thinks. He said something like that. But now it feels, as much as he's so good at it, and I believe the character of Glenn, watching it, I think of it more as a role than I did back then. You know, he's playing a role. He's playing nervous. It doesn't mean Steven Yeun's a nervous person in real life.
No. And he looks so much younger. He's grown up a lot.
Yeah.
Like must have been in his early 20s here, and now he's late 30s or early 40s.
57.
He's 6 now. He's 73. And he's won an EGOT. He hasn't won an EGOT, but I think he's won an EG. Has he won an Emmy and a Golden Globe? Or was it an Emmy and a Critics' Choice Award? I don't remember. He's won loads of stuff
I think
recently.
he just won a Golden Globe and an Emmy, right? For his role.
All he needs to do is the Oscar and the Tony, and he'll be an EGOT, baby.
Get on it. I don't know. Did Minari win anything? It should have.
It got nominated. I think he'll get an Oscar within the next 5 years. He should.
All right.
That's
Heard
my
it here
prediction.
first. Yeah. Do it. We got some stuff on him in the news, but
Yay.
I'll go on to talk about Andrea and Shane.
Chandria.
I'm much more interested in now than I was, I think, back then. I like this progression. Watching her in target practice, being the sharpshooter that she also is in the comics, which I love, and smiling at Shane. And I'm definitely noticing a lot more of how it was a build up to their crotch grab in the car. Like it didn't come quite as much out of nowhere as I remembered it.
I also think, I know we disagreed about Rick matchmaking earlier. I think Rick was hinting this episode when he's like, seems like she needs the advanced class, Shane. Maybe you can stay back after. I'm like,
Rick's the matchmaker.
He knows.
He's also I don't see it. I think
he's got an agenda. He's like, get away from my wife, please.
Oh, maybe so. Yeah.
But yeah.
So, and I kind of wonder if this means, well, I'm guessing the writers didn't have this pairing in mind until season 2, but within the story, you could wonder, I wonder if Andrea liked Shane back at the quarry too, but she knew that he was probably with Lori, so he didn't. And then when Rick came back, she was like, yes.
Yeah, result.
So then the scene where Shane's swinging this log and trying to frazzle her, disrupt her while she's shooting it, and saying some really off-color things like you're too emotional, and now right there, that's the walker that got Amy, now you shoot that son of a bitch, shoot him. I thought, until he said the Amy thing, this is awesome, because you want to throw her off guard in the zombie apocalypse if you're trained. I mean, this is, I feel like, a compliment. Somebody's ready for the next level training. That's how what Shane
Yeah.
is saying. You showed that you're a sharpshooter. Now let's really give you a situation to deal with, so you can see if you can do that same thing when the shit hits the fan. And I think it was awesome. And she gets upset and walks away. And he agrees he crossed the line when he brought Amy into it. Which so do I. He didn't need to do that.
Mm-mm.
And she goes, "You're a real dick sometimes." Yeah, I acknowledge that. That's hilarious.
It's so good. It's just like, yeah, sure.
Yeah, that's right. So then I actually didn't remember them looking around in that creepy house with all the dead bodies.
Yeah.
But then when the garage door went up, I'm like, "Oh yeah, I kind of remember this." But anyway,
Mhm.
it's sort of convenient that right after all of her training, then she had a real world situation. And but I still liked it that she was kind of fumbling at first, but then he encouraged her. Like he could have just
Mhm.
stepped in and took charge, but he's like, "No, I'll stand back. You go for it." And then you could see this Zen calm come over her, which was a
Mhm.
great, I think, acting with Laurie Holden. And she just really took on, I think, what Shane had just taught her. And it
Yes.
felt to me like a real Mr. Miyagi moment, you know,
Mhm.
where she got tutored and then put it to great use. Except Daniel never got the hots for Mr. Miyagi after he like successfully beat up
I
a
hope
bunch of Cobra Kai. They didn't
never
show
got in a
that.
Hyundai with him.
Yeah. But it is kind of similar, as much as that probably creeps anybody out that I would say anything like
Mm.
that. But Daniel and Mr. Miyagi had this great bond because of everything they went through. And anyway, let's go on to the next thing. So Andrea has a hell of a first move.
Yeah.
Just grabs a guy's crotch. I call it the Trump.
Oh.
Do you approve of this?
I feel that Trump wouldn't approve of it being used that way, so yeah, I approve of
I don't
it.
know. He might. It was Laurie Holden. Um,
I love that it was in the Hyundai. That cracks me up every time. Someone
it's
at
the greatest
Hyundai
promotion.
standards had to sit there and be like, "Yeah, this is fine.
Yeah, it's hot.
Yeah, it's hot.
Yeah,
People want to
makes
buy
a
the car
car
now."
scene sexy. Yeah. I think when I first saw this, I felt bad for Dale because in the comics, Andrea and Dale are together, and I really liked their relationship.
Hmm.
But I don't feel attached to that now. So I was like, great. I think this is great.
Hmm.
And I think it's really interesting how how attraction works, because Andrea likes cocky bad boys, as so many women do. Men can be
You
like
know.
that too. And I also kind of think Shane wasn't really all that into Andrea until she got pissed at him and he had to win
Hmm.
her back. And I think
Hmm.
it's complicated why this is, but a few reasons that might play into it is, one, we want everyone to like us. So when someone seems like they do, then it's easy to take them for granted. But when it seems like they don't, then sometimes we want to chase after it, as
Hmm.
unhealthy as that can be. Two, we want to trust that what people are putting out is real. So if someone is like ingratiating and complimentary, then it seems like it could be a ploy to get something. And we don't
Hmm.
trust it as much. But if someone's kind of a dick, then that can feel more honest. Like they don't seem like they're trying to get anything. And I
Yeah.
think that's one reason why people love Daryl, because he actually is honest in that way.
Yeah.
Like some people act like a dick because they know that will
Yeah.
make them seem honest. So it's highly
Yeah.
dishonest, but it still works. But Daryl's sort of curt in a way that actually is honest. He's
Hmm.
not trying to put on airs at all.
No.
And then number three, some of us deep down don't think well of ourselves. So when someone treats us badly on some level, that feels right,
Hmm.
which is totally the most unhealthy of all these. But maybe Andrea has some of that going on. I think the key to having healthy attraction, as corny as it is to love yourself first. So then you'll be drawn to people who are perhaps more well adjusted, like Glenn and Maggie, versus someone like Shane, who's a very, I don't know, toxic
Questionable.
kind of a person. Yeah,
Questionable
questionable, I
choice
would
there.
say. Yeah.
Questionable choice.
What do you think of all that stuff I said about attraction? Do you disagree
Oh
with
yeah,
any
no,
of
I
it?
think absolutely. I think also
Mm,
like we all have destructive tendencies to go for things that aren't necessarily good for us.
yeah.
And some of us recognize the patterns and some of us don't.
Mm,
And I think there is a classic thing where traditionally women can get sucked in by the bad boy persona. And I think there is something in Andrea that responds to these toxic, damaged men. And I think it is confirmed when we see her with the governor later, because there are a lot of red
Right.
flags with the governor that she actively
Yeah, that
ignores.
sort of fits in with this. I don't know if I'd thought
Yeah.
about that before.
I don't know if I would feel as comfortable saying it if I didn't know that she then goes on to have another really bad relationship. And yeah, I've always quite liked the Shane and Andrea stuff because it highlights, because I've been thinking a lot about, what changes Shane's mind about leaving and stuff. And I do think that the biggest spanner in the works is the pregnancy. I think there's a scenario where if Laurie wasn't pregnant, they all kind of muddle through, and like Shane and Andrea are a thing. He gets to maintain a relationship with Carl, like they do the best they can, but it's the pregnancy that really puts the fire under Shane to be as monstrous as he ends up being. And that's all going to kind of hit the fan quite shortly. So I don't know. I have affection for Shane and Andrea. I like the way this plays out. I like that there's something quite primal about it. I like the relationship of the kind of teaching and learning that they do. I wouldn't recommend it as a teaching practice for anyone out there, but it works. Um, yeah, I it was good to have that kind of come to the fore in this episode. It's one of the most cringe sex non scenes. I cracked up when she like grabs the crotch and he's like, nah. And then like,
Yeah. That
and then they
honestly,
break.
that's what made it cringy to me. Like I just thought if someone did that to me, my first reaction would be like, "What the fuck are you doing?" But who
No.
knows? You can't really know how you'd react in the moment.
But the bit that cracks me up is every time I watch this, it cuts to the outside of the Hyundai and the brake light is on. And I'm like, oh, is his foot still on there? And then it comes off and there's a
I love
it's
that. It's so
like
funny. I wonder if that
it's,
was. I wonder whose idea that was. Maybe that was Angela Kang's idea too.
oh, it made me laugh so much. I was like, yum.
Funny.
Hyundai sex.
I don't remember what really happened with them after this because there really has been an arc with her being into him and then they have sex and I don't remember I don't think they're a thing after this, so maybe
No,
Shane finds out Laurie's pregnant and just disses her, or do
I
they just
think
drop
that's
it,
it.
or
I honestly
yeah.
think to my recollection that is it. As soon as he finds out Laurie's pregnant, that's the kicker because that's what he's
Mm-hmm.
wanted is this family unit.
Mm-hmm.
And it's on the table in a way that it's never been on the table before. And yeah, I think that's when things really start to fall apart.
Mm. Not the zombie apocalypse, but it's
No,
more
not the
about
zombie apocalypse. No, that's
it's
just
more
small
about
fish.
Shane
It's just
finding
that.
out
It's more
Laurie's
about
pregnant.
Shane's
I'm
paternity
just
of
kidding.
Judith.
So what's next?
I mean, I had Shane and Andrea too. I'm just looking to see if I've got anything that you have not mentioned. I don't think I do, other than does Shane have a child militia that we don't know about? Because
I
Rick has a
know, what
line.
the hell?
He's like, I've seen him teach children younger than Carl. And I'm like,
Tons of them.
when? When?
What, how did this happen?
How did this
Maybe in the South
happen?
it's more common for, but
Like,
Shane doesn't have any kids as far as we
I
know. So.
know. I'm like, so the toddler shooting lessons at the local fucking police station. So that was a confuser.
I mean,
But
Carl is 12 or
7.
13.
Oh, it's yours.
No, yeah. He's 12 or 13. I looked it up because I wanted to ask myself what I would do in the same situation. And the wiki says he's 12 in Days Gone By, which he seems younger than that.
I think they age him up from the comics to make sense of Chandler Riggs aging because I'm
Oh,
sure in the comics he's 8.
yeah,
I
yeah,
might
yeah,
be
yeah.
wrong.
But Chandler Riggs is also 12 at this point, I think.
Oh.
So he looks younger to me.
Yeah, boys kind of.
But
I
my
don't know
son
how
is
to.
12 and he looks older than
Yeah,
Chandler
but Nico's
Riggs.
really cool though.
And I was thinking, would I give, I know we're kind of moving on to a little bit of a different subject, but would I approve of Shane teaching Nico how to shoot? And I think I would in the
Mhm.
zombie apocalypse, just as Rick said, to learn how to handle guns safely. And
Hmm.
I'd probably try to have a bunch of rules around it. But yeah.
Yeah, it's the classic. If you're going to do it, I'd rather you did it safely.
Yeah, but not
Do you
Bodhi.
know?
I
Yeah.
would try to keep a gun away from Bodhi as long as possible.
So you just got that kind of mean look.
Not mean, just crazy, man.
Bodhi's behind Jason at the moment with a Nerf gun, just like going to town.
He wants a pickaxe. Every time I ask him what he wants for his birthday or Christmas, a pickaxe. What are you gonna do
Wow.
with that? I'm gonna mine. He wants to be a miner because he's been playing Minecraft. I'm like, it's not mining. Like, isn't what you think.
I want a pickaxe so I can mine. That's amazing.
When
That's
we go
actually
camping,
amazing. Well, he could join the child militia.
yeah, he
Shane
would.
will teach you.
Uh, anyway, why don't you do a new one though?
I will. I will. I'll find a PowerPoint. Andrew and Shane talk about Angela Kang. Let's talk about. Oh man, Laurie. This episode. Oh, I find this episode really hard to watch from a, I don't know, reproductive rights perspective, and I don't want to get really political about it. The only thing I will say is the situation Laurie finds herself in this episode is a situation which is not as uncommon as it should be. And women's rights are getting rolled back across the world at a rapid rate. And it's just
You
something
mean
to
a
think about.
situation where she would have to take a morning after pill well into her
A
pregnancy?
situation where she would have to do an at-home abortion to
Mm-hmm.
manage a pregnancy that she didn't necessarily want. And it really hit me a lot harder watching it this time around because like this episode aired in 2011 and it's 2024 and the situation for women in certain parts of America is a lot worse than it was when this aired. And I find it really, I don't know, I find there's two issues here for me. One is I find surprise pregnancy a really cheap storytelling thing. Like it bothers me that often women's
Soap
storylines are
opera-ish.
reduced to pregnancy. However, I forgive it in this show because A, we get Judith, which adds a different flavor to the whole thing. And B, I think it is a really valid question of like, what do you do in the zombie apocalypse when
Yeah,
faced with
me too.
this medical
Mm-hmm.
condition? However, I don't think when this episode aired that it would really have been a comment on Roe v. Wade or anything like that. But I found myself very tense watching it, thinking about that and thinking about how terrifying it must be to be in a situation that you do not want to be in and do not feel you have a choice about and unable to do something about it.
I think the episode was careful, at least it seemed like it to me, not to try to, not to make it that issue of pro-choice versus
No.
pro-life,
And I think
as
that's
because like Glenn wanted to make it clear. Well, actually, Glenn made it clear that he wanted it to be her choice. And then when
yeah.
Rick was like aghast that she would want to try to abort the baby, it felt, I don't know. I don't think it's because he's anti-abortion, but I think it's more about, hey, this is our baby, you know?
Well, he actually comes back on it. Yeah,
Yeah,
he
he
says she's
does.
told me
Yeah.
first, and he does say he's scared that she thinks he would have made her go through with a pregnancy she didn't want, and he makes it
Right. He
clear
just
that
wanted
that's
to
not
be a
something he
part
would do.
of the decision. Yeah.
I mean, I do feel for
Yeah.
Rick that he comes back from like a like a little walk, and then he comes in and it's like 5 packets of morning after pills and some pronatal vitamins. I'm like, what'd you do with
She's
that?
not doing a very good job of keeping that secret.
Terrible, terrible job of keeping the secret. But I don't know, it hit different. It really hit different this time around, and I really did
Yeah.
feel very deeply for her. And I would not have judged her if she had not thrown those pills up. But I'm glad for the sake of the story that she did do that.
I felt for her in that moment because, well, I was judgmental that she didn't take Glenn's advice and go tell Rick.
Yeah.
But then you find, you see that she's taking the pills and then she goes and throws up. And I'm like, God, that must be such a horrible position to be in. And,
Awful. And I think as well, she feels so guilty. She feels so guilty and she's punishing herself through this. Like, this is the thing, and she's like, she feels so paralyzed with guilt about what she did that she's not thinking straight. She's not sharing it with Rick. She's forcing herself to make all these decisions on her own. And it's interesting the interaction she has with Dale, where he kind of, I'll say Dale, I liked in this episode because he took what Glenn told him but didn't get Glenn in trouble.
Yeah, covered for Glenn.
Apart from with Maggie, who saw through and she's like, now my dad's pissed at me. And I'm like,
I know.
yeah.
Like Maggie didn't even ask Glenn because the story that Dale came up with is he was over by the barn and he heard the zombies, which
Yeah.
is totally reasonable to think that that would happen and is probably actually inevitable with all these people milling around. Like I'm surprised I didn't find him before, but Maggie didn't even ask Glenn. Did
Yeah.
you tell? She just presumes she happens to be right. So
I
okay.
mean, he did say sucks at lying. So
Yeah. That's true. Yeah.
I would say the person who's most judgmental in this episode about it is Maggie. I remember that really clearly from this episode.
Yes.
Maggie coming up and being like, here's your abortion pills. But I
Yeah.
think that is coming from a place of her distress about what has just happened to her and a whole heap
Yeah.
of
The
other things about how
zombies.
they're treating.
She's not happy that Glenn didn't tell her about it. You know,
Yeah,
she's
Maggie's
just
feelings.
she's upset that they keep sending Glenn into these dangerous situations. But I do think there's well, I was gonna say she comes from a religious family, so maybe there's some of that sentiment in there. But she's also expressed having doubts, so we don't really know how much
And
of
she
that is.
tells an anecdote in a later episode about Beth throwing all of her contraceptive pills in the river or something when Maggie comes home from college once. So Maggie is not averse
Mm.
to using contraception, as we know from previous episodes. And I do think with
That's
Maggie,
right.
they kind of square the circle when Maggie is the one to deliver Judith. And it's clear that this doesn't, it's not something that festers between Maggie and Laurie, but her reaction is very knee jerk. And she says to Glenn, that bitch almost got us killed. Like she's very
Yeah,
angry.
I think it's more about just having sent they because she gives that whole speech about Glenn. They always send him into danger. I
Yeah.
felt like it was maybe more about that, but I don't know.
I think so. So yeah, pronatal vitamins or vitamins, as we say in the UK, or morning after pills, that's a hell of a choice. And yeah, she makes herself sick. She decides to keep the baby, and she's still not sure if it's the right thing to do. And then that leads to this discovery by Rick in the tent. I've just written "who boy" in my notes. And Rick comes up to Laurie. I don't know, they both are so good in the scene. He's like, "Is there something you want to tell me?" And Laurie's like, "We can't leave. I'm pregnant." Um, and then he says, "Are you?" Which is a hell of a line. I don't know, this whole scene, I wish I'd kind of looked at the script written down because it's just so well written and well done between the two of them. Um, and it's very interesting what Laurie says about a baby living short, cruel life. And I think this is where having watched the show to the end is a blessing because you think about Judith and the life that she has, and it
Yeah,
is it is
because
cruel.
Lori's worried about, I mean, her whole struggle is seeing that Carl's turning into a little psycho. And
Uh-huh.
so she's like, he had already 10 years outside of the ZA and this is
Yeah.
what he's becoming. So what if I bring someone up in this? Will they even be able to live to your age, to Dale? Will they have joy? Will they, not, they don't, she said she has these well of memories to draw on, but this baby will have nothing. And so, yeah, as you're saying, we think about Judith, and yes, she's been through some hard times, but she's managed to keep that spark of joy about her and
Mhm.
that zest for life and everything. And so it
Her well
comes
hasn't run
across
dry.
way differently now that we know the future of this baby, and we have a lot of hope that she will live to be Dale's age.
Yeah. We have no reason to believe she doesn't.
Yeah.
So that's yeah. I think Sarah Wayne Callies is just very good in this. The one
Mm-hmm.
thing that I got angry at Andrea as Laurie for in this episode is when she takes Rick to absolute task about not telling her about Herschel not being sure that they're staying. It's like, how could you not tell me this? How could you lie to me? And I'm like,
Yeah.
bitch, you're
Right.
pregnant.
I know. You got like at least two big secrets going
I'm
on
like,
here.
maybe let's not
But
be
then Rick
too
does the same
touchy.
thing to her. You didn't tell me, but I guess
Yeah.
I mean, they're both hypocrites.
Yeah. And I thought, okay, so here's the thing I thought was a really interesting choice is when she's talking to Dale at the start, she says, I thought my husband was dead. I just wanted to feel something. I just wanted to, feel anything. And she knows it was a huge mistake. When she's talking to Rick, he says, I know, of course I know. And then there's this silence. And Laurie doesn't actually say anything. And Rick is the one who says, you thought I was dead, right? Like I think it's interesting that she's not jumping into justify it, and he kind of fills in the blanks for her. And I don't know what that says. I don't know if that's a way of saying that like Laurie isn't as sorry as she said she was to Dale. I think she is, but I just thought it
I
was a
think she
really
is.
interesting choice that Rick is the one who fills in those
I
blanks.
think he just wants to make sure that that's what
Yeah.
happened. And she's like, yes, that is what happened. And it is what happened.
And the episode just ends with the two of them there at the fence, and this is kind of where everything really, I don't know. This feels like a turning point for them.
Yeah. I mean, so they're there together, and, you know, Rick confronts her about the pills, and she tells him right away, which I
Mm-hmm.
thought was good and thankful, because I don't want this storyline to go along anymore. Let's get
No.
it all out in the open so we can move on to something else.
Yep.
And Laurie says, you can scream if you have to, but talk to me, which sort of brings up the things we've been saying about Laurie's problem with Rick all along, that he doesn't talk enough, or as he said in that flashback, as she said in the flashback in season 2, episode
Yeah.
2, to her friend, he was trying so hard to be reasonable. It just pushed my buttons all the more. And you and I had the conversation about how it can be really frustrating when your partner won't get in there and emotionally just engage, even if it means yelling. Well, he makes up for it because he just yells at her, why the hell did you tell me?
She's like, oh, I don't like it. Stop it.
Yeah, you asked for it, buddy. And so then you got the reaction you wanted, right? But then Rick calms down pretty quickly and says, we can make it work. And he wants to make it work. But he does, express support that, if she really didn't want to, that he would be there for her for that too. And then he goes, I can't live like this anymore. We can't live like this. And I think he's referring to just feeling like they're secrets. And I think he even, I don't know how consciously he knows, but he's talking about her affair with Shane here.
Yeah.
One of the listeners had asked when we thought the moment was that he figured it out. And now I can see why, because when she says Shane and I, he goes, is there anything else I should know about? She says, Shane and I, and he says, I know, of course I know. And so, yeah, maybe that moment that the listener said back in, was it this season early on, where she was talking with Shane and Rick came in.
It was Tej, and he was talking about them speaking outside the RV when Jim is in there.
Yeah, so maybe.
I do think it's a bit of a running gag that Shane and Laurie are very unsubtle. Like when Dale's like, oh, there's Shane, and Laurie's like, oh my God, you knew? And I'm like,
yeah. Well, remember when the tent was shaking and Carl was playing?
Yeah, remember
outside?
when you were constantly going into the woods to have sex? Yeah, we all noticed. Like, oh my God, awful, awful.
So Rick quickly forgives her for that. But then, of course, the next thing talked about should have been, so what are the chances this is Shane's baby? But instead the episode ends. And I can't remember if they ever talked about it. I don't think so. But, it's sort of like two parallel things here. Rick pretty much already knew that Laurie had been with Shane, but wasn't confronting her with it. It seemed like he'd only let himself consciously be aware of that in this moment after she admitted it. And maybe it's the same thing about it being her baby. Like he's not, or Shane's baby, that he's not even letting himself think about that. And in season 8, when he says to Michonne, yeah, this isn't even my child, it almost feels like this same moment where he says, I know you and Shane have been together. Like he's just finally letting himself realize it or something,
I think he hints that he might know when he says to her, how long have you been keeping this secret? Days, weeks, months.
Yeah.
But I still think your reading is good. Like I agree with you that it's letting himself think it, but I think because that line struck me when I was watching it, I was like, why is he saying weeks or months? Like, because if it's weeks,
but what he's not saying is, this can't be mine then. So I think it either he's really deluding himself or it must be possible for it to be his.
Yeah. Well, they're
otherwise
very
he'd be like, well, it's not mine.
Yeah, they're very careful to show them hooking up the week before. I think it's still quite quick, but the possibility is there.
Because you and I had talked about whether the timing works out on that, but I think if the timing absolutely didn't work out, then Rick would just be like, so you got Shane's baby.
Yeah, exactly. It has to be plausible that it's...
I think. Yeah. So, Glenn seems to be more concerned about her condition than it seemed like maybe he could have been judgmental, one of the listeners said, but I don't think that's it. I think
No.
he's just like, you need to take care of yourself.
He needs medicine and a nice pillow. Cute.
Yeah, exactly.
Cute.
And when she said, prenatal vitamins or morning after pills, that's a hell of a choice. And Glenn just said, I'm glad it's not mine, which sort of expresses understanding no matter which choice she makes.
Mm-hmm.
But he just wants her to tell Rick. And yeah, I guess that's it. So let me go on to something else. How about walkers in the barn?
There's walkers in the barn?
So a few just random things about this. At one point when Patricia is like getting the chicken from the chicken coop, the camera rests eerily on the barn outside, looked through the doorway, and it looks like it has a face. I don't think that's an accident. The two windows are the eyes, and the big kind of gaping mouth is the door. Creepy. So then she feeds the chickens to the Zeds, and I was thinking it's a good thing that zombie chickens aren't a thing, because they'd be bitten and eat. What would they be called? Not walkers.
Chombies?
Chombies, cluckers.
Cluckers.
Peckers.
Peck. Don't think you can call them peckers.
Don't get pecked. Oh, okay.
Don't get pecked, Andrea. Anyway, sorry.
Oh, too late.
Too late.
So Dale finds out and talks, about the walkers from Glenn, talks to Herschel and tries to smooth things out. And he's ever the diplomat, he's just like, oh, well, let's tell everyone and we'll make the barn more secure. And Rick or Herschel says, Rick's a man of conscience, but are you so sure about everyone in your group? And I think he's referring mostly to Shane, but maybe to Daryl a little bit too,
Yeah.
That might kill him.
Yeah, he's still pissed at Daryl, even though Nellie's back.
And if you think, I was sort of thinking Herschel should just tell him, but nah, he's got a point. If he doesn't want Shane and Daryl going in and shooting up his zombie wife and kid, he has to keep it a secret. And when they're talking about whether walkers are too dangerous to let live, and Herschel says paranoid schizophrenics are dangerous too, we don't shoot sick people, that makes me think that Herschel maybe would not have approved of Carol telling Lizzie to look at the flowers. I don't know. Was he around?
I just have an inkling.
So.
I just have an inkling he might not have liked that.
Yeah. I guess it's a safe bet. And then last, as I said, these are all kind of random, but Maggie named off a bunch of Zeds in the barn. She said Mom, Sean, Lacey, and Duncan. So Duncan's in the barn. So there we go.
Wonder where he went.
And I guess when Glenn saw all the Zeds last time, Sophia must not have been out in the open. I think she was already in there, but she was over in a dark corner
Otis put
or
her
something,
in there.
right?
Yeah, she must have been hiding.
Or she was just too short, so
she's just playing in the corner.
Playing ball.
It was nice to see Dale and Herschel share a scene.
Oh yeah.
Kind of. I never think of them as having been on the show at the same time. Like, I don't know, they seem to.
Yeah.
Herschel kind of took over the wise old.
He replaced Dale, yeah.
So it's nice to see the two of them together.
And this was a good Dale episode, I thought, too.
Yeah. So he really had my kind of good feelings until he was a bit of a. Well, I don't know. I think he was right with Shane, but his reasons were wrong. It was clearly more about Andrea than it was about the group per se. The way that he confronted him.
Yeah, I think Dale, like I said, he's trying to be the diplomat. He's learning the secrets. Well, Glenn told him Lori's pregnant and the walkers are in the barn. So he just basically lends an ear to Lori. I mean, he's trying to connect with her, and I'm not sure telling about his wife that has had a miscarriage isn't a great way to comfort someone, but
not the most helpful.
But I mean, she seems relieved to be able to have someone to confide in. Just starts talking about how, why she was with Shane, that I thought my husband was dead and I wanted to feel something.
She thought she died with him, which was very sad.
Yeah. And Dale tries to get Herschel to tell Rick so they can work out the zombies in the barn. But with Shane, it's way different because it's more personal, because he senses that something happened with Andrea and Shane, and straight up tells him to leave. And he suspects rightly that Shane's story about how Otis died wasn't true. Although I've since come down on Shane's side of that whole thing. But anyway,
Let the record
and
show.
then Dale says, "I know what kind of man you are." And Shane says, "You think I'd shoot Rick? That's my best friend. It's the man I love. I love him like he's my brother. You think that's the kind of man I am?" Dale says, "That's right." Shane says, "Well, maybe we ought to just think that through. Say I'm the kind of man who'd gun down his best friend. What do you think I'd do to a guy that I don't even like when he starts throwing accusations my way?" And he does end up gunning down his best friend. So I think on some level, Shane knows he's capable of that. And he has a
Right.
point here. Dale, if you really think that of Shane, maybe confronting him isn't the smartest idea here. So that's my criticism of Dale here is like, hey, if you really think Shane's like that, and I think you're right, Dale, then you better not tell him up front. Yeah, like Dale says, Glenn has no guile, but in this scene, Dale has no guile.
The boy has no guile. No, I think you're right. I think I think Shane plays that moment really well as well. And you see that was a proper Jesus moment.
Yeah, it was great. It was so good. Do you think Dale is right to want Shane out of there?
I mean, ultimately, yes, because Shane is a loose cannon and is prone to doing things that are questionable. It does end with Shane and Rick in a standoff in which Shane intends and hopes to kill Rick. However, I don't think the reasons he's doing it at this point are correct because it's more about him and Andrea than it is about the
Yeah.
group as a whole. Or maybe, I mean,
No,
if I'm
you're right.
being generous, he's maybe thinking about the group's survival on the farm overall.
Well, I think he's activated by his jealousy,
Yeah.
but he also is right. But he's not, because he's triggered, he's not handling it well. So, yeah, I think you're right. What you just said, his reasons for bringing this up are not pure. Same thing last week when he was like butting up to Andrea. I forget what it was, but he
About
was
Daryl.
being opportunistic about Daryl. Yeah.
Mm.
He takes it. But anyway, as far as just purely whether he's right, I think he's right because Shane, he cares about Lori and Carl and anyone else he would kill if they got in the way. So someone like that's not a good leader for a group.
No, and I think, Andrea asks Shane why he stayed in this episode as well, and he kind of focuses in on Carl and Rick rather than Laurie, which I thought was interesting. So I think I'm warming to this idea that it really is more about Carl than it is about his mother at this point. But I do think that's about to change as soon as the pregnancy comes into play.
I actually don't think that. I think Shane is still fixated on Lori. I
And you
do.
think Carl's just part of that?
Well, yeah. And yeah, I think Carl, the whole family thing is part of it. I mean, what I was trying to say before is I'm not sure if Lori has a thing for Shane, but I do kind of blame Lori for Shane sticking around because she asked him to stay and didn't say anything about, this is for Carl. It's not because I don't have any feelings for you. She didn't say that. So that sort of left the door open for it. So, and I'm not sure what's going on with her as far as that goes, but either way, no, this whole time I've thought Shane wants to take Lori away from Rick.
Interesting. Yeah. No, I think so.
So, anything else?
Anything else? Let's have a look. Oh, this episode has Peter's favorite line ever in it, which is when when Dale is telling Shane to go away and they do a bit of product placement where he's like, take your fancy new ride. And it's like, yep, Hyundai product placement. I have some notes about Glenn and Maggie. Well, a point about Glenn and Maggie, which is just that their relationship in this episode is much more layered than I first thought.